So as messed up as this Obamacare website is, you think hackers are having the run of the place on the Obamacare website, and how might that affect your personal information? Keith Squires works in cybersecurity. Conventional thinking is this thing's pretty messed up and hackers would have the run of the place, but is that really true?
Hey, morning, Joe. It's hard to know. There's a wide variety and diversity of opinion right now, and some encounters that people are reporting where, they're able to get to other people's information and they shouldn't be. They did receive a temporary security certification. I don't really know what that means. It's either secure or not, but they certainly didn't go through the testing that they were supposed to. They shortcut it. I think they're starting to see some of those issues come to fruition here, but it's hard to know because they're not subject to the same laws that commercial companies are, where if you have a breach, you have to disclose it. We'll never really know if there's a breach for this site.
Now, would our private information be kept private more so on a website through a private insurance company more so than a government website? Would we be safer on some of the insurance companies' websites as opposed to what the government's trying to put together here?
Well, I think we would, simply because this thing that they're trying to orchestrate is so huge. There's so many moving parts and so many subsystems that they've got to try to orchestrate. And, of course, they've got this new concept called the Data Hub, which reaches into Department of Homeland Security, IRS, Social Security Administration, Veterans Administration, all these different sites to do verifications. And although they supposedly don't store the data that they pull out of there, it's also a part of the mix and in transit. And if you can breach these sites and interrupt these conversations and get the unencrypted data, then you're liable to get to lots of good stuff. So I think it's going to be hard to know if hackers are really getting in and what's going on, because they don't seem to want to even give a straight answer to Congress when they're being grilled about this stuff.
But Keith, they got to be trying to get in, because they know that if they do get in, they'll get a lot of publicity, right? So they got to be trying anyway.
Well, I'm sure they're trying, and actually the opposite may be true. They may not want publicity, because if they are able to find a hole and access it, they're going to sit there and gather data all day long. That's the way most breaches and a lot of malware works. They plant it there, it sits there quietly pumping data out to China or wherever they're stealing identities from.
On that data hub, though, I've heard that data hub you talked about a minute ago, it really isn't a target, because it's my understanding that it's not even a physical entity, and it doesn't store information. I guess it's similar to like an old phone switchboard that accepts calls and then reroutes them. So even if it is hacked into, these attackers wouldn't find much but encrypted messages that led to locked boxes. So even if they get in there, they'll say, okay, not much here. They might move on to something else.
It may be true that it doesn't store data. That doesn't mean you can't get to it. A lot of the issues with this website has been that data has been moving around unencrypted.
Yeah.
So if you know where to interrupt those conversations or intercept those conversations and listen, you can issue different commands on the site and grab things that are floating around on the conversation. So just because it's not stored doesn't mean it's not an issue.
And you said that at this point we really don't know if they're in there, and if they're in there, what are they getting out of it? Will we eventually get some definitive information about what kind of damage they could have done if they're doing damage?
I wish I could say yes, but based on what we've seen, the pattern we've seen so far is they're just not disclosed. They won't even say how many people have registered.
Yeah.
So that's frustrating to me, to watch the people who are responsible for this and supposed to be our advocates basically stonewalling when Congress is trying to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, I got one more thing, too. I guess this Windows 8 operating system that was launched there a couple of months ago, it had like 5 million codes. This website, I heard, has 500 million codes. So what are the chances of this thing not operating properly? It's got to be pretty high.
It's just such a huge beast with so many moving parts. It's another example of why you can't just take over an industry that's so large and expect to have everything under control. And since when does the government do anything effectively and efficiently other than the military?
Here, here, here. He's the guy I go to for cybersecurity issues, Keith Squires, who works in cybersecurity. 570 WSYR, Joe Galuski, Traffic and Weather Check, and Rick Reagan Money Coach on the Twitter. IPO, ready to dive in? Let's find out if we should in 2 minutes.